Hello, everyone. Today we'll continue talking about Stoicism, and we'll be talking about the dichotomy of control. And for the Stoics, especially Epictetus, one of the great Stoics, this is really kind of the heart. Here is where a lot of the main moves for the Stoics conception of the good life emerge, and a lot of the consequences come from the observations of the dichotomy of control. So let's begin. So here's what Epictetus says. There is a sharp line between two things. On the one side, there are things that are internal to us, that are constitutive of our mental life. There are the experiences we have, our beliefs, our desires, our goals, our emotions. They're part of kind of the inner furniture of the life of the mind, as it were. And that's internal to us. That's kind of like maybe what makes us what we are, like that what gives us our conscious identity. There are things that are external to that. There are things like other people, there's society, weather, physics, like things outside of our mind. There's that we just within and the mind, that's internal, that we just outside of the mind, other people, society, that we just external, right? So that's a sharp line here. Um, and here's a kind of main claim by Epictetus. It is wise to choose to concern oneself with what is internal and what is internal only. If you're wise, you care about it, and you should care about looking into, like concerning yourself, being, caring about things that are internal to your mental life, your experiences, your beliefs, your desires, your goals, and really be indifferent towards, have this healthy detachment regarding things that are external, which include things like society, weather, physics, but also other people and the way other people look at us and things like that. So your reputation, the way people think about you, those are things that are at least in some sense external, partly external to you. And Epictetus, one of the great Stoics, thinks that it is wise to not be concerned with that, not care about, be indifferent towards. So when I say not care about, I don't mean dislike or disapproval for there's no negative attitude towards things external. There's indifference. You're neither concerned nor not concerned with things external. You are only concerned, you only care about things internal. What happens outside, what is external, should be at the end of the day indifferent towards your happiness. That's the main claim. um, Stoics in general, and Epictetus in particular, think that most people make the wrong choice here. He thinks the most important choice someone has is to either concern themselves with things that are internal, or to also concern themselves, to care about things external. And most people do the foolish thing of caring about, concerning themselves with what is external. And most people do that because they think that's where harms and benefits come from. Your life is better off if you have things that are external, like a house, a car, the material things, but also like people like you, social appreciation, or you get a job, you get a career, you make it into a team, right? We tend to care about things that are at least to some extent external to us, things that other people have control over, society has control over. And we think that's where benefit and harm comes from. I get benefit. My life is better off if I am a member of the team, if I make it into this cool school, if I have this cool job, if I go into this relationship. We think those things external are essential to what is good for us. They have the benefits, but also that's where the harm comes. Like people, when you get annoyed, when you get frustrated, it's because something happened outside, right? You're very anxious because there's an exam coming, and the exam is something external to you, and then the reason for your anxiety is the exam, or it's something external. Or you're walking in the street and some mean stranger shouts some obscenity at you, they insult you, and then you think they have harmed you, right? Like they, something outside, harm you. The bully, the insulter is outside, they have harmed you. So we think benefits and harms come from outside. Benefits, society, career, wealth, things like that. Those are the benefits for life, and they're external. And also the harms come from outside. People being mean and things like that. They come from outside, or like sources of anxiety, like an exam. So good things and bad things, people think, come from outside. And the radical Stoic claim is that's wrong. The good things and bad things come from within, not from outside. That's the main claim. So we'll spell that out and more carefully to end today's discussion. But here's the claim that Epictetus says: a wise person has one primary desire or goal, and then all of the other desires or goals kind of structure themselves around this primary desire. And the primary desire is to only desire or to only care about things that are internal and within our control. Why is it that it's wise to care about the internal and not the external? at the end of the day, Epictetus will say, that the Stoics will say, it is because things external are beyond your control, and it is foolish to concern yourself, to worry about, to be anxious about things beyond your control. That's the basic Stoic insight. It is foolish to worry about, to concern yourself with things beyond your control. Like, why would you? Right? Like, you shouldn't be upset that the sun comes tomorrow. Like, well, I guess, like, whether it comes up or not, it's completely beyond your control. It is foolish for you to concern yourself with that. Everything external is like that. You have that's beyond your control. So it is wise to concern yourself with things that are within your control, namely only things that are internal. So let's spell that out in more detail. So here is the economy of control, right? The economy, two options. Epictetus begins one of his main writings by saying some things are up to us, that is within our control, and some things are not up to us, that is beyond our control. So here's the basic sharp distinction in the world. Some things within our control, some things outside of our control. Then he gives us examples of these things. Here are the things that he says are within our control. So there are goals, our values, our characters, our beliefs. He thinks those are within our control. Um, Here's the second category. He thinks that within our control are our desires, our emotions. Let's come back to that shortly. Here are some things that he thinks are not within our control. They're not up to us. Weather, large economic and political trends, physics. But here are another crucial category: our possessions, our wealth, our house, our cars, our clothes, our reputations, what people think of us, whether they esteem us, whether they like us or not, our social position, careers. If you look at category 2 and things that are not up to us, according to Epictetus, most of us concern ourselves with those things. And again, for the very reasons that Epictetus tells us, because we think that's where harm and benefit come from. We want to be appreciated by others because we think that's a good thing, right? That's a benefit of society, that they, get social esteem. We care about our careers because we think that's, what makes our lives worthwhile. We worry about our wealth because we think not having it is harmful, and having it is good, right? So most of us concern ourselves with category 2 in the options that Epictetus says are not within our control. We'll come back to that. That's going to play a major role in subsequent discussions. But let's look at the second category for now of the things that Epictetus says are within our control: our desires, our impulses, or our aversions or our emotions. So without having read Epictetus, most of us would have thought, well, like, that's not within my control, right? I'm walking in the street, some strangers issues an insult, and then I get angry, right? And the anger is the kind of natural biological response of the stranger, right? It's something external. It's the stranger's insult that causes my emotion of anger. And like, that's not up to me, right? Like, that's the strangers that's doing it to me, right? That's a very natural way of thinking. And Epictetus says that's how we navigate the world. We act as though there's a straightforward external event, and a stranger says something offensive, and then a response, anger, right? We think that we go straightly from something external, the insult by the stranger, of which we have no control, to we get angry, right? The stranger's insult causes our anger. That's how we think. So thereby we have no control over the cause, namely the stranger, and therefore we have no control over the effect, namely our anger. We may have some control, we say, over what we do with our anger, whether or not we shout back or walk away or call the police, or I don't know. We tend to think that we have control over what we do with our emotions, not whether or not those emotions are caused by things external. And the radical thing that Epictetus is saying here is that we're actually mistaken. That's how we understand the world, but we have failed to realize we actually do have control over the emotions themselves. He points out we would not be angered. So he thinks it's not just external event, insult, and then anger. That's the response. There's an intermediary step, which is our interpretation of what's going on, which is our cognitive kind of reading or understanding of our experience. And that involves judgment or opinion, and that is within our control. So Epictetus points out we only get angry because we believe people should not be insulting us. It is disrespectful for someone to shout obscenities at us. I deserve to be treated a particular way. In other words, we think, we want the world, the external world, to be a particular way, people not to insult us. And that belief is essential for our anger. We wouldn't be angry unless we interpreted the situation as a mismatch between what we want things to be, how we believe things should be, and the way they are. So for us to, respond with anger, we must believe or interpret the situation a particular way. And the observation for the Stoic is that it is up to us to interpret one way or another. And we're going to talk about this later, but for now, there's space for Epictetus says, opening up space for us to realize that our emotional lives are actually more within our control than we don't take control of our emotional lives, but in principle we can. Because part of what it is to have an emotion is to perceive the world as either harmful or beneficial or something like that. We are angered at the insult because we think it is bad for us to be insulted. If we did not think it was bad for us to be insulted, if we thought something else, then we might not be angry. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. For now, let's just flag the fact that for Stoics, emotions are at least in principle within our control because they involve interpretation on our part. And the interpretations are judgments and beliefs, and we have control over those, right? That's just category one, which we shouldn't dispute is within our control. So Irwin, the author of the book, points out, well, the way that Epictetus describes the dichotomy of control is true, but it fails to make an important distinction that we care about. So let's make that distinction. Let's call it a trichotomy of control. That is 3 options. It's not just things that are in our control and things outside of our control, but rather there's really 3 options. And those are option number 1, things that are completely within our control. And these are the things that Epictetus says that is wise to concern yourself with. And these are the 2 categories we looked at, beliefs, desires, goals, and also our emotional life. Those are, at least in principle, completely within our control. So Epictetus says, Stoics say, care about and only care about things that are completely within your control. Now, the second category is things that are completely outside of our control. And these are kind of like some of the kinds of things that Epictetus points to, physics, whether the sun will rise tomorrow, big economic trends, big political trends, what happened in the past, things like that, right? How many planets are orbiting the sun? That's just completely beyond our control. It is foolish to worry about these things. It is foolish to concern with. It is foolish to arrange our life as though an emotional life, as though, that would impact us. The wise thing to do is to not worry about however many planets are orbiting the sun. And we all think, well, of course, right? Like Epictetus' recommendation for option number 2, we think obviously. It is this third category that is where people think, well, maybe Epictetus is going too quickly. In the third category is something that is completely within our control or completely outside of our control, but this middle category, things that are partly within our control, things that we have some say in the matter, though not completely say in the matter. These do include like some of the things that Epictetus pointed to: reputation, careers, wealth, things that we tend to care about, things that most of us spend most of our lives consumed with, dedicated to, worried about. Those categories are partly within our control. And Epictetus is making the strong claim that we should not concern ourselves with these things. We should not wed our happiness with our reputation, our career, our wealth, and so on. Why? Because they're beyond our full control. And because they're beyond our full control, it is foolish to concern ourselves with. So now this claim, it seems less obvious as the claim in category number 2, right? When Epictetus tells you, don't worry about whether or not the sun rises tomorrow, you think, well, of course, that's naive. But Epictetus is saying the same thing about these category 3. If it's not fully within your control, you're foolish to care about them. That's the claim. Let's explore that a little bit more. So Epictetus says we should be indifferent towards these categories, category 3. We should be indifferent to our careers. So you take a class and you want to get an A, you study for the A. Epictetus tells you should actually be indifferent. That is, happiness should not be wedded one way or the other whether or not you get the A. The way in which Irwin brings this together is by saying that for the Stoics, you should internalize your goals when it comes to category 3. So only care about category 1, completely disregard category 3, Category 2. In category 3, actually be indifferent towards the external things. You actually be indifferent towards your wealth, your career, your reputation, but internalize the goals. What does that mean? Well, instead of, say, wishing to be an actress, right? That's an external goal in category 3, because you have some control, right? You can take acting classes, you can go on acting auditions, you can do all sorts of things that are within your control to try to bring about be a great actress. But the actual goal, be a great actress, is not fully within your control. You know, there have to be teachers there teaching acting classes. There have to be producers there that are, having auditions. They have to like you. They have to give you the job. You have to be able to work well with the writer of the play or whatever, the movie. People have to like your movie. Right? It's just the success of the goal, be a great actress, is largely beyond your control. It just depends on so many other factors, which are not within your full control. So the Stoic says it is foolish for anyone, for everyone, to actually have the goal, be a great actress. Now, they don't mean by that, hey, don't try it, just hide under your bed and don't try anything that's beyond your control. They do not mean that. They mean be indifferent, right? Be indifferent whether or not you become a great actress. But here's something you can do. You can internalize the goal. Here's something that is wise to do. You can wish to do the best you can to be a great actress, and that should be your goal, to do that which is within your control for the sake of getting close to being an actress, right? So be the better version of yourself when it comes to acting, and that you can do, right? That is within your control. To do your best is within your control. And that's an internal goal, right? That's a category, and that's the thing in category 1, things that are completely within your control. It is completely within your control, at least in principle, to do the best you can to be a great actress. It is wise to have those kinds of goals, says the Stoic, but actually be indifferent towards the external thing, be a great actress. So if you're having a class and you want to get an A, the Stoic said don't want the A. Don't make your goal to be to get an A. Make your goal to be to do the best on your side for the sake of it, the A. But if actually getting the A is something you should be different about. So why would they say that? Here are some considerations for thinking that the internalizing of the goals is the wise thing, and the having goals that are external is the foolish thing. So setting our goals as things external to us is foolish because of the following considerations. One, we are hanging our happiness on things we cannot control, right? It's not fully within our control to get the A in the class. It is not fully within our control to be an actress. Like, that's just not fully within our control. So we're hanging our happiness on things that are not up to us, and that's foolish. Furthermore, because the goals are external to us, because the goals are not within our control, at least not fully, then we'll be anxious, right? Because we know things are beyond our control. It depends on whether the professor thinks what I'm doing is correct. It depends on whether the producer likes that. It depends on things that I have no control over. And now anxiety, being worried, being frustrated, like all of those emotions are kind of like the natural responses to the mismatch between our goals and the way that the world may be. Even if it turns out you do get the A, the anxiety that's built up to getting the A is going to be there because your goal is external. If your goal is internal, however, you wouldn't have any anxiety. Why would you be anxious? Your goal is to study well. So if your goal is to do your best, then instead of being anxious and waste your time being anxious, you would be reading and practicing and studying. Why? Because that's within your control, and that is actually your goal. So when you're trying to strive for the goal that is external, you'll be anxious, you're worried, those are negative emotions, undermine your tranquility. If you succeed, okay, well, then good. But if you fail, now you'll be frustrated, you'll be angry, you'll be dissatisfied, you'll be resentful, right? So externalizing your goal means negative emotions before into striving, and it means negative emotions and if you don't get it. If you do get it, no negative emotions. But anyway, you have two potential sources of negative emotions that undermine your tranquility: anxiety that leads up to the goal, the satisfaction of the goal, and then frustration, anger, and resentment if you don't get the goal. So that seems kind of foolish. Why would you do that to yourself? Again, the recommendation is not, okay, then just hide under your bed, don't try anything. The recommendation is, no, internalize the goal. Instead of, I want to get an A in this class, you should want to do the best you can for the sake of getting an A. And here are things why that's the wise thing to do. One, now your happiness depends upon whether or not you get your goal, right? But now it is within your control to do your best. So, hey, your happiness is not hanging on something external, it's hanging on something purely internal. It gives you power authority over your own happiness, over your own inner mental life. Here's something else that everyone points out. Actually makes it more likely to get the external thing if you internalize the goal. Why? Because it focuses the effort on on your part of the story, right? If you're, let's think about the A case. If your goal is to get an A in the class, the anxiety, the worry is going to distract you from actually studying, right? You're going to be anxious there, and that's bad for you, right? Because it's undermining tranquility. But also, in the process of being anxious, you're going to be wasting precious time and effort instead of studying, right? If your goal is the internal one, it really is the internal one. Then if your goal is to do the best you can, well, you'll be reading, you'll be studying, you'll be, looking at the lectures and things like that. So you would actually be maximizing the chances of getting the external thing. So it will be more likely that you do get the external thing by internalizing the goal. Um, so there's that observation. But the other one is that even if you don't, if you should actually be indifferent towards the external goal. So if you do your best and then you get the A, okay, wonderful. If you do your best and you don't get the A, well, still wonderful, right? Because you did attain your goal, namely you did your best. So you will not, your tranquility will not be disrupted. You won't be frustrated and angry and resentful because you didn't get the A. On the whole, you'll be happier by internalizing your goals. Your internal life, which is the true source of your happiness, claims the Stoic, will be better off. And the it would actually maximize the chances of getting the external, though you shouldn't hang your happiness on that. Okay, well, let's end here. I'll see you next time.